Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thank you for tuning into this video. Silver's still sitting relatively cheap. And when I say relatively cheap, I'm talking about during recent times you would think prices would be a lot higher. So why is silver so cheap? Why is silver so undervalued? That is the subject of today's video. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe because I post daily videos. So, silver still sitting around this $15 range is a lot cheaper than people would imagine during times of economic turmoil like COVID-19. You would think silver would be a lot higher. But things are going a lot slower, and I think people forget that silver is a much slower market than, let's say, stocks or even cryptocurrency. Now, one indication that silver is extremely undervalued is the gold to silver ratio. Now, the gold to silver ratio is still way above 100 to 1, meaning it takes 100 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold, which is a very, very, very insightful indicator that silver will outperform gold sooner than later. It's just a matter of time when. Now the feds they keep pumping all this money into the economy, trying to give a cushion towards people impacted by COVID-19, businesses and citizens. But what that's doing is saturating or oversaturating the dollar, which is going to in return make a weaker dollar. Our financial system is already corrupt. So they're trying to manipulate the dollar just as much as silver prices are being manipulated, which we could go into a little bit. There has been a lot of silver manipulation from as early as the 1930s when FDR changed the gold to silver ratio from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1. That's early on manipulation. He undervalued silver drastically. And it was purposefully. And silver never really recovered since then. He's trying to say that gold is so much more valuable than silver. But what makes gold so much more valuable? Is it shinier? Does it perform better in electronics? No and no. Silver used to be seen just as valuable as gold back in Egyptian times, biblical times, because it could purify water. It was magical. They saw it as a form of magic, the way it responded with other elements. So silver is used and has been used for thousands and thousands of years as a form of technology, as growth in humankind expansion, expanding into the technological era we're advancing, and silver is going to be a huge, huge player in the ball game, right? 5G technology. 5G is going to be the newest, biggest thing. EVs, electric vehicles, going to be the newest, biggest thing. Silver's a large player in both of those. So it's not like we're going to run out of silver. It's not like it's not like we're going to not need silver, but there's definitely a good chance we're going to run out of silver. I just made a video today talking about how silver is vanishing. The supply is vanishing before our eyes. The biggest miners, Mexico and Peru, shutting down due to COVID-19, and what that's going to do, not only to the economy, but to silver's price. But that's not the topic of this video. Why silver is undervalued is. So the earliest manipulation of pricing goes back to the 30s. But then we see a whole nother side of things. Kind of like the Hunt brothers. Now we see the big boys in the game trying to use their greediness, their selfishness, their money, their power to manipulate prices. There's this word called spoofing. Placing false buy orders on exchanges, trying to cancel the buy order before it goes through, tricking the rest of the people on the exchanges thinking a whole bunch of silver is being bought up. Then when the price shoots up, they cash out. They sell all their silver. They liquidate. Or keeping the price low so they, in return, can buy it for cheaper. Just like when JP Morgan called Bitcoin a scam, everyone sold their Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price shot down, and then JP Morgan ends up buying millions of dollars in Bitcoin right after that. They knew that they could push the price down lower to get it for cheaper, and they used the will of other people other people's money, other people's, I guess, gullibility to their advantage. And it worked, but they got caught because everything is shown publicly on a public database on the blockchain. So we saw that they were what happened. JP Morgan got caught red-handed. 3 of their employees went to prison for it. Spoofing is an illegal crime. It's a punishable crime now, and hopefully they crack down. But that's not all that's going to take, because if 3 people are spoofing, they got caught, there's several more companies and people doing it on bigger and smaller scales. So what does that mean? Does that mean that silver's price is forever going to stay in a bubble? Not necessarily. I definitely think that silver's natural price can shine. I mean, supply and demand could outweigh spoofing and all that other stuff. It might hold it back a little bit, but not to what silver's full potential is. You know, if you think about what silver's real value is, it's pennies to the dollar compared to that stuff. Pennies to the dollar. So now we can go into, you know, what else makes it undervalued? Well, compared to gold, it's seen as, silver's a smaller market, right? So gold is seen as a safe haven asset. People invest into gold first and then figure out and find out about silver second. And I think that's a lack of education. Just people don't know. People don't know that's how much potential silver has, because people don't want, the higher ups don't want you to know. They don't want you to invest into silver and gold. They want you to stick to currencies like that are pegged under the dollar, because the dollar is all about faith. It's a faith-based system. And if people start investing into precious metals, that's going against the grain. If you are a slave to the dollar, you're giving your power over to them. They want you to be in debt because then they can control you. You're enslaved to them. It's all about power. So if you start investing into gold and silver, and people, they know that, they're going to what? Try to downplay what gold and silver really is. Oh, it's a bad investment. Oh, it's in a bear market. Look at the price. They're never going to talk about how silver was $50 twice in the last 35 years. They're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about how it's the perfect hedge against inflation, or how gold has been actually rising during COVID-19. They're not going to talk about that. They're going to look at all the negatives to try to make it as unappetizing as possible, because they don't want you investing into something that's a direct threat to the dollar. It's a direct threat to the dollar. So with that in mind, you know, they're going to push stock markets on you. They're going to push bonds, options markets, futures contracts, ETFs, anything that is pegged to the dollar. And that's why I always try to warn you, if you are investing into stocks, which I do a little bit here and there, you're investing in something that's still pegged to something that's failing. It's like switching seats on the Titanic. So just beware of that. Diversification is key. Diversify your portfolio. Make as many, plant as many seeds to blossom your wealth as possible. But also remember, just remember what's at stake. And gold and silver are definitely the smartest, safest alternatives. So just to recap a little bit, silver has been manipulated for many years now, and there's reasons why, but it doesn't mean that it will still continue to be manipulated. One day the bubble's going to burst and silver's true price will be exposed, like we've seen in 2011 and in the 80s, 90s. It's going to happen again. It's just a matter of time, and if you are patient enough to wait that long. And when it does happen, don't expect to see $50 silver. Expect to see $100+ silver. We're living in crazy times, so expect crazy prices. The markets are much more volatile, much crazier than 2008, which led to $50 silver in 2011, and before that. So I would not be surprised to see much higher prices. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Why do you think silver's undervalued? And how much longer do you think it's going to stay undervalued? What's going to be the biggest reasons, the biggest players in the game that are going to affect or influence pricing? Is it going to be supply and demand? Is it going to be cutting off spoofing? Is it going to be the increased dollar deflation? Is it going to be COVID-19 playing out? What's it going to be? I would love to hear your thoughts, concerns, comments, insight. Thanks for tuning into this video. Make sure to smash that like button. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.